Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. Welcome to Friday, July 25th. I believe it is the last Friday before we hit August, and then we're rolling towards fall, autumn, whatever you want to call it. Appreciate you guys being here. Massive Iron Live is the longest running lifting podcast in the history of the universe. Live lifting podcast, I believe. Who knows? Who's keeping score? Who really cares, right? I'm here. Always been here. Oh, thank you for that. That was really good. Sorry, the smoke alarm made a noise. Longest running lifting podcast in the history of the universe. So appreciate you guys being here. I don't know if it's actually the longest, whatever. For those of you guys that are new here, please don't hesitate to post up your questions. I answer every question posted. And diet, training, nutrition, reasonable off-topic questions are accepted. If your question doesn't go through, try shortening it or rewording it. Sometimes if it's too long, YouTube will throttle it, will censor it, will not let it go through. And if you have the occasional naughty word or word that YouTube doesn't like, it will prevent your question from going through. That's not me. So anyway, don't feel like there's any question that has been asked a million times before. We are here to help you. I'm here to help you with muscle building, strength building, anything really, endurance running. My background, for those of you guys that don't know, I was in the bodybuilding world, really deep into the bodybuilding mindset for about 20 years. And around 2006, I, excuse me, stumbled upon a power lifter at a job, and he introduced me to things like, well, this is more like 2005, 2006, things like box squats and West Side and good mornings and wide stance squats and all this kind of stuff. And I started playing around with powerlifting a little bit. This was around 2006. Ended up competing, I don't know how many times it was, and ended up doing a lot of powerlifting coaching. I coached the Special Olympics, as well as many, many, many people on the platform. I can't even count. I've lost track. I haven't done that in a number of years, but I did that for quite a while. Then I got to the point where I nearly lost my life from type 2 diabetes. Literally, I was about 346 pounds. I had extreme fatty liver disease, just was not doing very well at all. And I ended up losing 100 pounds, made a dramatic body transformation. Not on purpose. I just tried to save my own life. And here I am, happy to be here. I got into ultra running at age 50. I wasn't the fastest ultra runner. I wasn't the world's greatest ultra runner. People often ask me what my speed was on runs. Like, I didn't run for speed, man. I ran for distance. Some of the longest runs I've had, I think at my peak, I did 10 marathons, trail marathons in a year. I did a number of 12-hour endurance runs. I did a number of 50Ks, and I also did 100 kilometers for my 52nd birthday. That's about my limit. I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoy that aspect as well. So that's my story. Let's get into your guys' questions. Before we do so, I want you to check out superlivingtoday.com. That is my website. If you need workout ideas, there's a workout tab. One of my top services is custom workouts. I do those every Saturday. So if somebody signs up for a custom workout, I build those on Saturday. That's what I'll be doing. Tomorrow when I get up, you can head over to here and search custom. It is only $39. So for that, I send you a bunch of questions and I build you a custom workout based on your preferences, split preferences, where you work out, injury history, etc. And I also give you a basic bulking and cutting overview to how to assist you to getting to your body composition goals. You can also check out the coaching tab. That's what I do for a living. I would love to work with you if you are interested in coaching. I coach full time. I work literally about 60 hours a week on coaching and about 10 hours a week on custom workouts, etc. So that's my schedule and that's my story. How you guys doing this week? You having a good week of training? Let me see if I can get this off. I am doing really good with mine. Had some really good chest work and back work this week. I'm going to try to get in shoulders tomorrow. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. Patty said, how old were you when you lost 46 pounds? Or 100 pounds. I was about age 46. So roughly about age 46, I was headed into a powerlifting meet. I was pretty much on track for about a 1,900 pound raw total. And my bench was looking around 440, 450. I had squatted a couple weeks earlier, like 645 for a double. I was pretty comfortable having 620 to 640 on my back at that time, and it was moving pretty quick. So I think that I was pretty close to a 700 pound squat, and my deadlift was somewhere between 770, 780, maybe 800. Really quick. Have you ever dealt with elbow tendonitis? This is something I speak about endlessly on this channel. Go over to the main page of my website and search elbow tendonitis or tendonitis. The biggest cause for tendonitis is overuse of the grip, especially on back day and on static hold work like power shrugs and deadlifts and RDLs. You need to get things like VersaGrip Pros or Protect straps, something that assists with your grip. It is primarily an overuse injury. This is oversimplification, but that's really what it is. Anybody that's a serious lifter, been lifting for a long time, and doesn't use grip support is going to end up getting that incredible degree of pain right here. All right, let's jump to the start of the line. Big Ernie P, what's going on, Ernie? Good to have you here, a client of mine. I currently run, something flying around my head down here in the dungeon. I currently run upper posterior. Excuse me. Life is getting in the way. How would you divide into 2 or 3 blocks over the course of the day? I mean, you could just do on posterior day, you could just do the legs in one block. And there's basically in any of my workouts, this main structure is going to be 6 exercises. So you could, on posterior day, if you want to do it in 2 blocks, you could do legs and then later back, or you could do it in block of leg and back. There's really no way, no right way. Whatever works best for you. Let's say you're starting off with squats or deadlifts on a posterior day. You could just go in and do the big lift because it has a lot of warm-up sets, right? And then, knock the big lift out and then go back and do 2 or 3 exercises at a time. Many ways to do it. I hope that doesn't sound dismissive at all, but I'm just trying to think of how I would do it. I probably would go in and you want to get the big hitter done first. So if you have time to do a second exercise, you could. If not, just come back and do the next 2 exercises. And after that, finish out your day. Now, I want to mention something before we move on. Okay. This is going to look pretty stupid. This is a protein shake from 6 Star. Fruit Loops. Everybody loves. I don't really like Fruit Loop milk, but it's all right. Right. But here's the thing I want to mention to you guys. If anybody lives near an Ollie's, okay, and you're looking for budget food, Ollie's, if you don't know what it is, check it out. See if you live close. I go to Ollie's once a week. And Ollie's takes like bankruptcies or foreclosures or whatever, takes all this merchandise. And you can walk in and you can get cheap stuff. Like they had whey protein for $12. They had creatine for $10. They had these for $1 a piece. And I only use them rarely to fill in the gaps, maybe once or twice a week, but at $1 a piece. They have canned tuna, super cheap. Um, rice, instant potatoes, super cheap. You could basically beef jerky, super cheap. Man, I stocked up on like $50 of beef jerky, and it was just a ton of beef jerky, like literally a ton. So if you live near an Ollie's, you want to check that out. It is definitely for anybody on a budget, wants to save money, and there are plenty of options to get in your bodybuilding foods. Is there always perfect options? No, but you can get some canned veggies, some canned fruit, your rice, your starches, canned tuna, canned chicken, canned salmon, whatever. You just never know what you're going to get there, but you usually have a pretty good deal, some pretty good finds. Hey, Steve and Team Massive, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. I'm currently about 4 years into training, weigh 170 in freedom units, and bench 77.5. How long is it realistic for me to bench 225 by 5? I mean, usually it's a little bit slower than we, expect. I mean, on the internet, everybody progresses rapidly, right? It's, just how crazy everything seems. But honestly, in the real world, you're looking at, you're benching, I don't know, pretty close to, what would that be? 175 for 6. And you want to get up to 225 for 5. You have about 45 pounds, and you could get it done in a year. That would be a good goal. Some people could get it done quicker. Some people might take a little bit longer, say 13, 14, 15 months, but somewhere in that range. Let's skip forward to the random question. No, I don't do that kind of stuff. I have no time and no interest. I don't care what anybody does, but I work 70 hours a week, and I don't have that kind of free time. So no, it's nothing that interests me at all. I don't have that kind of free time to sit on the couch and veg out. No offense to anybody that does. You have the glorious life, but this is what I do for a living. This is my passion. And, I have, I have no issues with it, but I don't care for it. I don't care about it. I do sometimes see some clients over investing in this stuff, some people over investing in this stuff to the point where, it's controlling them a little bit. The only thing I'll say my big concern, whether it's food or weed or alcohol or whatever, I don't want anything controlling me. So if I feel like anything is controlling me at all, I want to regain control. So whatever you do, just make sure you are leading the dance. All right. What training variable can help, or at the very least not hinder my progress? I believe we were talking about the bench press. The biggest thing that can help is nailing a controlled lean bulk over an extended period of time. This is where most people fail that are trying to get their bench press up. It's pretty easy. And when I say easy, I don't mean, like just walk into the gym and you magically can bench 185, after a year or a year and a half or anything like that. But getting your bench to like 185 by 5 is a pretty easy, in a relative sense, task to accomplish. And it can seem like, even if your nutrition isn't absolutely nailed down or perfect, you can kind of roll into the gym, eat reasonably healthy, gain, plantain, do whatever you want to do with your body weight, not overly focus on it, get in a reasonable amount of protein and get your bench up to 185 by 5. And you can kind of be fooled. And then at that point, it can get tediously frustrating for a lot of lifters. But at that point, that's when it's time to put on your big boy pants or your big girl pants or your big girl skirt or your big boy skirt or whatever the heck you're doing in 2025 and focus yourself, okay? Because the bigger you want to get, the stronger you want to get, the more you better start focusing on the little smaller, minor aspects that weren't as important or might not have been as important for you to get to the first 25%. And I call 185 by 5 on bench to 25% simply because it's a starting point. It's a good first goal. But to get from 185 to 315, it's going to be a lot more time investment. It's going to be a lot more focus. You need to make sure your nutrition is on track. You need to make sure you're nailing your lean bulking. You need to make sure you're nailing your consistency, that you have good tricep work in the mix, that you have good back work in the mix, that you have good overhead press and shoulder work in the mix. All of these things are going to contribute, and it's not playtime anymore. You also need some good variables on your bench press. Mix it up just slightly, not overdoing it. You want to have a dumbbell bench in the mix, in my opinion. And you probably want to have another form of barbell bench protocol, either something completely different from your meat and potatoes work, like a 5-10-10-20, or lower rep work on the floor press or Larson press or something. But it is time to step into the big boy world and make sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, or whatever the heck they say. Does that make sense? You really need to have things squared away. Most of my workouts structure things with this basic foundation. They're not set up for advanced lifters. Advanced lifters, play a different ball game, but they are set up. All my workouts are set up to help you build muscle, to help you build strength, and to help you get at least to that 275 level on your bench. So pick a workout, stick with it, nail your nutrition, get your tricep work in, your back work in, your overhead press work in, get a little bit of variation for your chest, and get down to business. All right. Speaking of ollies, they have these for about $1 a piece. It's just amazing to me when you can go in there and save a ton of money on everything, especially in this day and age. They also have the Bang energy drinks for $1 a piece. All right, enough. I don't work for Ollie's. Thanks in advance. Thank you for tuning in. Big Rico. How's it going, Rico? Show us the new shirts in the store. I'll do that really quickly. I was mentioning today that I don't sell a lot of apparel, and I'm not an apparel company. I do it mostly for fun. And creative work, free time, I make them for myself, and make them for members of Team Massive. If you want some pretty cool lifting shirts and you're a hardcore, goofball like me, let me share the screen here. You can head over to my website, Super Living Today, and there's an apparel tab. You see the apparel, and you can go to all, and you can source this is the most popular stuff that I sell. A variety of different massive iron lifting shirts that you can be proud to wear, right? Some of the newer stuff, you can go and search date new to old. Let's see. Some of this I just made for fun, just because somebody on Team Massive was mentioning underwear, and you can, I made the old massive iron underwear. This one I did for fun. Hello, YouTube. And speaking of weed, if you get it, you get it. Anyway, just hilarious stuff. What did I put here? This was for this was a local one. That's a long story, but there was a pothole like that. Let's see. The Hulk Hogan one has returned. This is the Hulk Hogan font. I call it the Hulk Hogan one. If you search Massive Mania, you can find that one. We have a new flag, Born to Lift, Massive Iron. And you have the tank to go with it. This one I just made yesterday because Martin from Team Massive was wearing a shirt, and I don't know, I missed the reference, so I changed the shirt into this. Massive Ahoy, do you even lift? And we also have this snazzy kind of creamy color look Hey, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. Let's look at one more, snapbacks and that sort of thing. We got the snapbacks, lots of hats. Let's see some of this. This is one of my favorite ones. Massive ramen. I special 3 flavors of ramen soup. Bulking, not bulking. All right. And we'll just look at a couple more and we won't torture you. Let's see. What do we got here? Savage or Meathead. You can kind of see eat is highlighted. Meathead, low brain capacity. That's a lifter shirt. And this is one of my favorite ones. I don't think anybody's ever bought it. 75% natty. Just humor. I thought it was funny. We have the drawstring bags, the massive freedom shirts. These are all the newest ones. Let's just look at a couple more. Plus one life. Let's look at some that I like. I like the Hulk Smash, the Massive Iron Smash shirts. Clean and Mean. And what else? This is one of my favorites. We got it in tanks and we got it in tees. The Toxic Training shirt. Let's see, Massive Iron Underthinking Team. If you watch Massive Iron, we're more bulldozer focused, and classic, that's just go in and destroy. The Massive Iron Toxic Training Underthinking Team. And we have that in the old Tank Toparooski as well. So a bunch of random crap like that. Just an endless amount of t-shirt options. This is one of my favorite ones. I'll show you this and we'll jump ship. I made the old Yeti holding the dumbbells. Why not? Right. So there you have it. No one buys the t-shirts. I don't expect anybody to buy the t-shirts, but they look good. I like them. I make them for myself, and you can find them at my store. I only mark them up like about $3 or $4. And the reason why I do that is, one out of every 20 shirts or 25 shirts in this day and age is going to get screwed up or lost just because of the post office or whatever. I build in a little bit of leg room just in case that happens, or somebody gets a shirt and it's like the wrong size and they want something else sent out. I usually send that out on my dime. I'm not trying to be an apparel company. Right. Where are we? Big Jordan Myers. What's a sample effective routine for calves, and how many days a week should we be doing them? Very good question. We got some calf training stuff. Depends on whether you're training at home or a commercial gym. There's two ways I like to train the muscle group: seated and standing. Now, I'm not trying to make rules, so don't ever read into anything I say and assume this is the way, this is the only way. I recommend seated and standing. We can debate the impact of the soleus all we want on the seated, but there's no downside in doing both. So there are some of your influencers and voices out there that go ape shit Lulu Bell over the debate whether the soleus is actually targeted effectively on the seated. We don't do that here. We just take a reasonable selection. We hammer the living crap out of it. Seated and standing would be a good starting point. When you're doing calf work, you want to make sure that you are very controlled. We don't have to do eccentric and counting seconds. Controlled, just a brief hold at the top, control down, brief hold at the stretch, etc. Calf training, obviously, training your calves, you don't have a lot of range of motion time where you're actually actively lifting the weight. Like when you do a bench press, you have a big range of movement, right? From here to here. On the calves, it's like, right? So you don't really have a lot of range of movement. So encouraging the calves with a little bit more mechanical tension, or stressing them with a little bit more mechanical tension, controlling it up, hold at the bottom, controlling it down, hold for a split second. That's probably a good idea. Now, we conventionally like to train calves in a little bit higher rep range, 12 to 15. I'm going to give you some ideas. There is a coach, John Christie, who is no longer with us. He was a more minimal type of coach, but He had a very, very intense book, a very thorough book. Did I agree with everything he taught? No, but I respected him because he put in a lot of miles with people like I do. And a lot of his knowledge was based on training people in the real world. Now, here's the point I'm going to make about calf training. One of the things he discovered was that some people responded really well to lower rep, heavy work on the calves, which goes against a lot of what we are taught or what we generally think. So there could be some value every week or every other week in doing lower rep. I'm not talking singles, doubles, or triples. I'm talking 6 to 8 rep sets, heavier weight by, I'm trying to say this the right way. Focus on progressive overload. You have to focus on progressive overload. Most people training their calves do not focus on progressive overload, and they'll go in, do a couple sets, their calves aren't growing. Boo-hoo, it's not working. You're not getting your calves a lot stronger. You're not dedicating years to calves training. We have one of my clients, Michael, is dedicating himself to calves training, and I believe he's gained about an inch in the last year, roughly. I would say, I don't know, give or take. So the whole idea that we can't grow our calves, honestly, I understand genetically they can be tougher for some people, but the reality is most people aren't training hard enough. So seated or standing is a good starting point. If you are at home, one of the things you can do is a rocking calf raise. And you can do these for straight sets of 12 to 15 reps, or you can do them for rest pause work of 30, 40, or 50 reps. Basically, you hold a barbell in front of you using straps, of course, because we don't want elbow tendonitis. You hold a barbell in front of you. And with the rocking calf raise, you rock back on your heel. You don't have to lift your foot off the ground. You rock back on your heel, put your weight on your heel, then you rock forward and press up. Sit down, rock back, not sit down, you're standing. Rock back on your heel, forward, press up, back on your heel, forward, press up. Does that make sense? Do you want to see a video of it? Should we put a video of it up? Let's do it real quick. Let's see if I can find. There are not many videos on the tube of you, the YouTube. Let me just mute this. Let's see. Rocking calf raise. Let me find the right video. You can do these for 10 rep sets, 15 rep sets. Let me just find some knucklehead. Okay. This guy appears to be doing it reasonably well. The main issue with what I'm about to show you is this guy is doing it with the barbell on his back. I do not recommend that. Just unwanted shoulder stress and completely not necessary. Just hold the bar in front of you for the love of all things holy with straps. All right, this is how he does it. Let's give him a like. He only has one. Now he has two. Okay, rock forward, pause, back on your heels, up, back on your heels. You don't necessarily have to lift your toes off the ground. You just want to move your weight to your heels. And again, hold the weight in front of you with Versa grips or straps. This is a really simple way at home to do calf work, standing calf work. You can also do them with dumbbells as well. So let's stop this and we'll remove this, unshare. I'm also going to show you something I used to do at home. It's called the standing dumbbell calf raise. Just giving you some ideas at home. Let me see if I used to. Here we go. This looks reasonable. I used to do them holding onto something one leg at a time. And I have not screened or filtered this, but you can put a little bit of a wood block or even a 45-pound plate down just so you have something to press on. And I used to do it with the dumbbell on the same side as the leg I was working. The single leg dumbbell calf raise. Pretty simple. Hold yourself for balance, etc. Really good option at home. I would probably do, if you're serious about working your calves, I would probably do some low rep stuff. And we're talking over a 2-week cycle. So you could do like the 6 to 8 rep range, 3 to 4 sets. And then the next week on the same lift, you could do 3 to 4 sets of 12 to 15. And then for your second lift, you could do something like the rocking calf raise for 30 or 40 rest pause reps for a couple of sets. There you have it. A master's course in calf training in about 5 minutes. I hope that helps somebody. Richard, happy Friday. How was your week? Not bad, Richard. A lot of work, but I am looking forward to the weekend. The story of the week, usually I let Nolan ask the story of the week. Nolan's not on yet. I hope Nolan is here. What is the story of the week or the anecdote? What do we want to talk about? Am I running out of stories? We were talking today on Team Massive about bodybuilders when they're walking out in public, the attention they get. And I was telling a story, sharing my opinion, my story, my, insight, wisdom, experiences, whatever you want to call it. I used to do content development. That was my career. I did it for Muscle and Strength and Tiger Fitness, and before that, my own website. At Tiger Fitness, I got to do a video with Deshaun, the guru of abs. If you go over to the Tiger Fitness YouTube and you search guru, why don't we do it? I mean, what else we got to do? It's freaking Friday. We don't want to work. We want to talk lifting. So I think I had this up before. It should be pretty easy. There we go. Deshaun Johnson, me and Deshaun, bing, bang, boom. The Tiger Fitness YouTube channel. Let me just expand this a little bit. There we go. One of the videos I did was I took Deshaun to the grocery store, and we just decided to walk around and let Sean, film. How does Sean grocery shop? What does he look for? The interesting thing is that Sean isn't the biggest bodybuilder in the world, but he is like 6'2", 6'3", and looks like a man mountain. And every aisle we would walk down, people would just stop and look and watch him. I imagine it was like that. So this is the video. This is what I used to do, content development, my idea. You can see me in the background talking to Sean. We had a film crew and all.
What's going on, world? Yours truly here, Deshaun Johnson, a.k.a. the Guru of Abs from Atlanta, Georgia, Nike trainer, also Phoenix Flex sponsor athlete. Today, we're going to take a trip inside our local Kroger market, show you a few ins and outs
Deshaun is about 6'2", 6'3". I did a number of videos with him. He is really big into ab training. There's me on the far left. There's me pushing around the carts. He's talking about
all right, here we go,
et cetera, et cetera. And
we'll have some fresh 4 of each.
Everywhere we would go, I don't know if there's any footage of it.
All right, now
wait. Let's see.
We got that. Go take it on down to the next one. Like I say, you don't have to get too much. You just want to make sure you get enough so when you do your meal preps,
but
you have just the right
a
amount
ton
when
of
it comes to making
women in the grocery store in the middle of the day.
Hour.
And he's a monster. You can just see how big he is. And the women would just stop.
All right, now
so just leave it at that. That's my story of the day. And somebody said, hold on, you're playing the video sound. Just FYI, not sure if you mean. I didn't know the video sound was actually playing for you guys. That's interesting because I had it muted on my end, so thank you for the heads up. YouTube will probably penalize me for that. What's a good calf size and how to properly measure them? I mean, measuring them, you just want to, it's going to take practice. You want to measure at the thickest part. Generally, 17 is pretty respectable. 16 is pretty decent. You want them pretty close to your arm size equally. So, 15-inch arms, 15-inch calves, 16-inch arms, 16-inch calves. If you have 17-inch arms and 19-inch calves, you probably have the dad calves. But that's just a reasonable goal. you want to basically have them close to your arm size. Neck, arms, calves, about the same roughly. Roughly, it's not a rule. Big Joe B, how's it going, Joe B? Thanks for tuning in. Lee, yesterday I reverse grip bench 225 for a double. Nice work. That is not an easy lift to do for most people. Good morning. Justin Jones from Team Massive. Thanks for tuning in. Best way to do seated raises for home. You can try the old barbell on the thigh trick. You can generally do that. You want to have your butt elevated a little bit higher than the peak pressing point of your knee. So you probably want to put something under your buttocks, your butt, if you can't get out. I mean, you don't really want your butt lower than the weight because if you're pressing up, the barbell is going to roll back. So you want to have your butt higher or at least equal to where your knees come at peak contraction. You can put a barbell on a towel and put your feet on a block or a plate or whatever. You could kind of do that at home. It's possible. It's not always the easiest, but you have to get creative at home sometimes. Barbell Beauty, thanks for tuning in. All right, we're about 37 minutes in. I just want to encourage you guys to keep the questions coming. I'll stay on as long as you have questions. I am finishing up a prime. I got a backup prime. The question is, I got a backup prime, and I have a purple monster. Which route do I go? This is nice and cold. I think we're going to go with the purple monstrosity. Let's crack it open. Yeah, there you go. Big Gary. Big thanks for the Savage set. Been using it. 2T3 sets works great. Excellent. Gary will be 72 in August. Do I have the PDF of the Savage? Hold on one second. Your computer. Let me see if I got it. I can pull it up. Savage, Sabbath. There we go. It's just something I've been putting together a big long PDF with workout examples. But this is the information I posted on social media. It's very, very brief, but we'll cover it quickly. Want to run 2 sets per exercise. Try this on the last set. This is what we'll move Gary's comment. This is what I call the Massive Iron Savage protocol. You can use it as needed. You can pick and choose which exercises to use it on, and you do not have to use it every week. So if you decide to use this protocol on the last set of curls one week, you don't have to use it the next week. It's like sprinkles on the icing on the cake. You do it when you have extra time or energy or the desire to devastate a given exercise. So here's how it works. Push the last set of an exercise for as many reps as possible. We're going to do this on the last set. Rest about 15 to 20 seconds or approximately 10 deep breaths, and then push another mini set for as many reps as possible. Rest again, repeat once more. So you're doing 2 rest pause sets after your last set. How many reps you perform on the rest pause work is irrelevant. Use the total number of reps on the main sets to determine progression. The additional rest pause work is simply a brutal way to add extra intensity to a set. Does that make sense? So that's the Savage protocol. I've been using it recently. You can use it on bench. I use it on bench. I use it on dumbbell bench. Basically, the only thing I would not use it on are squats and deadlifts. But on the old deadlift Aruskis, I have a different protocol you can use. Big Jeff, client of mine, thanks for tuning in. Good to have you here. Richard, I had a back injury, right back and rhomboids. The doctor recommended that I warm up those areas well before entering. What do you recommend? I don't know. I'm not a, prehab guru. and I'm not being dismissive, but if it's just general warm-ups, you could do a very light lat prayer or a very light dumbbell row. I would probably do something like that. If you want to get really funky, you could search upper back rhomboids prehab work and see if you can find a collection of exercises. So I don't know the degree of the injury, but that's probably what I would do. You can just do lighter work, seated cable row, dumbbell row for 10 rep sets, just to get some blood in there and to get them properly warmed up. What exactly are you warming up? You're warming up the muscle. In this case, you're not really trying to warm up the central nervous system. I don't personally think you need to do a lot, but a little bit would probably go a long way. Andre, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. Let's see, Peter Kleinemann. Thanks for all you do, Steve. Thank you for your support. With so much talk about fake natties, but are the training styles a lot different for naturals? No, they're not. So much nonsense. I mean, look, here's where the confusion enters in. If you are training hard and you add drugs, it's going to give you extra mass, really, without a lot of having to change your programming, right? Let's be real. I mean, this is certainly nuanced to a degree, but if you're training, natty, non-natty, however you're training, and you add in a chemical soup, you don't have to change your programming. It's just going to add, right? And if you get into the sport of bodybuilding and you want to work weaknesses, then you have to change your programming. But there's really no difference in training. I've met a lot of lifters over the years that made the jump and ended up, on bigger cycles, I guess you could say. It was just my job in the industry. I did content development. I worked with a lot of people. On any given day, I might be talking to Frank Zane. I might be working out with Ronnie Coleman. I might be talking content development with Jay Cutler or John Meadows. All these people. It's just people I worked with in the industry, directly or indirectly, from Chris Jones to Jerry Ward, rest in peace, to professional bodybuilders that would come in. You name it, everybody was in and out in one degree, way, shape, or form, capacity. So anyway, the long story short is I've been around a lot of naturals, a lot of big naturals, and I've been around a lot of guys that made the jump. And the training is really no different. It really, really isn't. I mean, what you see a lot of times is that someone will get to the peak of their muscle mass and they'll change the way they approach things so it doesn't beat up their joints as much. This is very, very normal. But no, there's no difference in training. There's this kind of fairy tale, that natties and non-natties train different. Most, non-natties, if they're big, they built their base training the way everybody else does, they built their base training the way everybody else does. They didn't just be weak and small and then hop on a cycle and then, look like Jay Cutler. I mean, Sean Ray is a perfect example. Let me show you something, for muscle and strength. I worked for muscle and strength for a very long time in content development, first at home, and then I moved to South Carolina. I did so many interviews and features and videos with top naturals because this was very naturally focused site. So much work, and this was a long, long time ago. Giant Killer. So, interview with Sean Clarita, the Giant Killer. This was Sean before he made the jump, before he hit the Olympia. He was a natural competitor. This is my interview with him, and that's what he looked like. Sean's a beast in training, and he didn't change his training style. That whole thing is just nonsense. And now if we look at how he looks now on the Olympia stage, just for reference. Let's see. That's what he looked like then. Let's just do this sort of a shenanigan. Can't really see it too well, but you can see natty, non-natty, a lot of mass, and didn't train any differently. If I go over and I do Clarita, I'll show you. I'll just show you this stuff. Posts from you. Let's see. Me and Sean, we've talked. I've done his interviews. I've met him. When I say I've met people and done things, I've met people and done things. Sean came in. There's a picture of me and Sean when I was at Tiger Fitness doing content. And this was way back in 2015. In this day and age, he's an Olympia competitor. So, training wise, there's no, it's silly. The belief is like anybody that's big didn't cut their teeth on hard training. It's probably one of the most ignorant lies I've ever met. Would you lust? Rest in peace, Ozzy. What a week it has been, guys. What a week it has been. Some of our, whether you like them, you don't like them. It is interesting to see folks like Ozzy and Hulk Hogan move on. Folks that were big and prominent, part of my life growing up. Favorite Sabbath song. Now, for those of you guys on Spotify, are you on Spotify? Are you on the Spotify? I'm going to show you something. I don't know. The first four albums by, the first four albums of Sabbath, hard to go wrong. I'm just trying to check out so if you go over to Spotify, I'll stop rambling, and you search Massive Iron playlist, we have kind of a gym playlist. If you feel a song should be added to this, let me know. But we have, collection. We got Paranoid. Gonna Fly Now, Bill Conti, Pump Up the Jam. Just some random stuff, asked to be added by, and some stuff I just like, so it's just but there's more than a few Sabbath songs on here. If you guys want anything added to the old Massive Iron playlist, if you need more of a metal playlist, check that out. I don't know. I can't really say I have a favorite Sabbath song. Crazy Train, that whole album was fun, in that era. I remember, being a teen and having that, album being very, very impactful. It was a great album, Mr. Crowley, Crazy Train, but the original four albums by Sabbath, what can you say, really, that hasn't been said a million times over? Big Blaine. Perfect background for smashing an brutal upper body workout. Thanks for tuning in, Blaine. I appreciate it. Big Kevin Krause. Big, hairy, ugly dude. Novice here, but on a path to lose a bunch of weight before starting a bulking program. I'm mostly doing cardio while losing weight. But what should I do for strength training? You want to do something reasonable, not something crazy, not something that's going to beat up your body. Something that is very, very reasonable. What I mean by that is you probably don't want to do a lot of intensity techniques or rest pause techniques or drop sets or whatever. I'm not saying you can't do that, but being on a cut, you probably want more straightforward work. Adding reps when you can add reps. naturally progressing. If you're on a set of bench press doing 165 for 6 and you can get 7, add 7. Be really smart about your progression, but don't go bonkers, right? You still want to push the body. There's always going to be inherent value in that. You don't want to remain weak. There's no value in that. So what I like to tell people is try to steal a rep when it makes sense. Does that make sense? How is jiu-jitsu going? It hasn't started yet. I had the couple that is running jiu-jitsu locally here at my house a month ago, 3 weeks ago. I can't remember. They had formed an affiliation with a local gym, and they had the reason why I know, my wife's a seamstress, and she was sewing patches on his gi. So they came over, and they had said they had formed an affiliation with a local gym, and that had just occurred. And I'm like, oh, this sounds like a good time to try jiu-jitsu. So they are actually starting late August, early September. So I got about a month until I actually start. So I'll see how beat up I get and if I survive being an old man. I find it hard to do jiu-jitsu and hit the gym with the same intensity. That's what I'm worried about a little bit. I do want to try it. A couple years back, I actually was set up to try it. I went to check out a local jiu-jitsu training facility. I went home. This is not a lie. I can't make this stuff up. I went home the next day. I was taking the dogs down the stairs. I twisted something. My knee swelled up. And for 8 months, I could not train my legs at all. My knee was in severe pain. I don't know what the heck happened. It's better now. I can train legs now. Honestly, it was the strangest thing. So it was kind of one of those weird things where you go on the internet and you say, hey, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu. And then the next day something happens and then you feel like an idiot. So, in my world, when you are trying to be transparent and just talk about your own fitness journey, there's always the 1 or 2% that get critical. Oh, you quit, or you didn't even try it, or you were never going to try jiu-jitsu to begin with. You get voices like that. But it was an extremely frustrating time with that injury, not because of jiu-jitsu. I've always wanted to try it, and I'll give it a try. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm not trying to turn into an MMA fighter. I'll be 58 this year. But, it was a very trying time for me because I couldn't train legs. And with how bad it was and how long it took to recover and how constant the swelling was, I did not think I would be able to train legs again. That's how bad it was. Big Momo, what's going on, Big Mo? Could I do bench the program that goes 1, 2, 3, 4 AMRAP on the same weight first day? What should I do the second day? So basically, he's doing the same weight where he builds up in reps, and then the fourth set is AMRAP. And that is a progression indicator. I would try to get in a little bit more volume on the second day. The threes protocol, DDP protocol, maybe the 5, 10, 10, 20. If you guys are not familiar with these, you can head over to the main page of my YouTube channel. I run a channel on YouTube called Massive Iron. You might be aware of it. You might actually be listening to it right now. Hold on. View your channel. Let's just try to mute. It says it's muted. That's weird. Whoopsie doosey. All right. Present share screen. La da da. Where are we? There we go. So, if you want to find out more, what are we doing here? Things are going crazy. If you want to find out about my progression approaches, you can go over to this little thing called the search bar and search progression. And you're going to get a bunch of stuff on progression. Progression tools, creeping death. Try these 6 progression approaches. Try these 6 progression approaches is probably going to give you a pretty solid overview of some of my main progression approaches. Let's just skip the ad. Let's see. The threes protocol is in here. Try these 6 progression approaches. The threes protocol is in here. Let's see. Straight sets, how to approach straight sets. DDP. I think we got a few more in here. Rep goal system. You guys can. All right. Bulldozer. If you search progression, you're going to get just a ton of, information on progression approaches. This is the big one. Try these 6 progression approaches. Try these 6 progression approaches. That will give you a lot of good quality information. Big Justin Jones. I got my elbow tendonitis a long time ago after getting and using VersaGrips. Do you think it can still get better? Yeah, I mean, you can't not use grip support. You can't. I mean, going without grip support, it's just going to get worse. So there's no option to go without it. Big Jimmy, worthy of cooking. Coach, sorry, couldn't help. Just being silly. Coach, been using Savage Protocol a lot this week. Do you like it for compounds? Just not for squats or deadlifts. Squats, you're going to end up spending more energy racking and unracking the bar. There's other things you could do. But yeah, pretty much any other lift you can use it for. I use it on military press, seated pin press, bench press variations, pretty much anything. Unilateral work like dumbbell rows, no, I don't do it for stuff like that because it just doesn't work. Steve, happy Friday. Thanks to you. Or thanks, same to you. Question on training to failure. After warming up, do one set to failure, the next set is drop. Does this seem to be enough? You have to look at overall weekly volume in the program. Looking at one set doesn't tell us much, and I'm not being dismissive, but you need to look at overall volume and impact. I don't like to seek minimums. So saying one set is enough, no, it is not enough. But we have to look at the context. I'm not a big fan of working the first set to absolute failure unless it's a big lift like the bench or the pendlay row where you've already done a lot of warm-up sets. You want to make sure you're completely thoroughly warmed up. But yeah, I would, as far as your question, you have to look at overall weekly volume, and it has to be reasonable, per body part. We don't seek minimums. We don't just do one set to failure and then a couple drops. That alone for each body part would not be enough, no, in my opinion. Big Jones of Justin, do you really think about having a Larson? Do you really think that having a Larson press in my program will help increase the bench? Anything will help. It's not magic, and I'm not saying it's going to be magical and you're going to increase it. You're just going to naturally increase your bench by adding a Larson, but you need some variation in. There's no downside. You could just go in and do the threes protocol, and that's it, and then do dumbbell bench on. That's a normal power building, base building program for a non-bench specialist. But if you are eager to improve your bench, yeah, you should have another variation in. No downside, only potentially upside. You don't have to use the Larson, though. You could use a floor press. You could use a 5-10-10-20 regular bench. You could use the incline bench. You can use a Spoto press. You can use 1.5 bench. You can use a guillotine press. Just work in some variation. The close grip doesn't matter. Let me get a drink. We are an hour in. Michael. Good morning, Stephen T. Massive. Calf Michael here. Michael is the client and the member of Team Massive that is improving his calves. Even though it's physically impossible and can't be done, Michael has been doing it through hard work. Not magic, not voodoo. It's not like Michael had magic calf genetics. He is training incredibly hard. I went from 15 to 16 inches in 12 months. and I only started training them regularly 6 months ago. Dedication over genetics. Let that resonate. Dedication over genetics. Big Clinton Turner. I don't know if you've talked about this or not, but just wondering your opinion on the silly sugar. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't like stuff like this. I don't even like. I just think it's completely like, what are we doing? It's not going to help gains at all. Not in the long run, not in the short run. It isn't. Somebody's going to hop on the bandwagon and go, but, yeah. No. We've been down the fad trail 8 million times. Oh, it's not a fad. Whatever you want to call it. Semantics aside, it's not going to, it has no upside for muscle building. I'm not saying that's necessarily why it's implemented, but I'm telling you, let's just analyze it from a reasonable and rational perspective. The sugar diet has no upside for muscle building. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what bull crap is spewed. It is not going to change muscle building at all. Period. End of story. Not over 4 weeks, not over 8 weeks, not over 6 months, not over a year, and certainly not over the course of your lifting lifetime. Has no benefit for muscle building. So we have to wipe that off the table. I don't even know how it's positioned. I'm just giving you a neutral opinion based on what we are looking at. There's no value for muscle building. So now we're over in the nutrition realm. Could there potentially be a value nutritionally? No. You're eating sugar, not something with nutrients. It reduces food volume. It removes nutrients. And, you get an instant spike or whatever the heck. I don't even know the point. There's no value nutrition-wise. You reduce food volume. You're eating a bunch of unsatisfying, I don't even know what he recommends. I'm ignorant. Okay. What sugary foods is he recommending? But regardless if they're grapes or maybe there are grapes. I don't know. Maybe he's talking about the sugar and fruit and only eating that. Perhaps so. But anyway, changing your diet to more sugar focused, whether it's pure sugar, white sugar or sugar and fruit, whatever the slant is, there's still no benefit at all. There's no long-term benefit nutritionally. There's no long-term benefit from a lifting standpoint. I don't know why we would ever do anything so silly. Maybe somebody can let's pull it up. I don't like to speak out of ignorance, right? It's just one of these things, like when I hear about it, I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Why did we create a new thing? Why did we create a new thing? What is the value? So hold on. Detail briefly. Let's do outline. Outline. If I could type briefly. No caps lock, numbers lock. Okay, hold on. Okay. Mark. Good grief, I can't type right now. That's what happened. Bell's sugar diet. Okay, what is it? Just so we're on the same sheet of music. No, it's more modern. It's not. This is something he is discussing heavily in 2025, just to make sure it's up to a deliberate counterintuitive fat loss strategy. Oh, it's a fat loss strategy. Mostly sugar-based foods. Candy, donuts, cereal, highly processed, fast digesting carbs, protein, and a bone. I don't know what we're doing. I really, really don't. Look, I'm going to tell you my opinion from a coaching standpoint. There are two types of people when it comes to fat loss. There are individuals that when you put them on a calorie deficit, boom, they nail it. They can handle it. They can handle a little bit of hunger. They get in, they get it over with. They lose the fat. They're done. They don't need anything special. They don't need a special amplification of fat loss. Their amplification of fat loss is usually the ability to stick to a calorie deficit, and they are able to run a little bit lower calories than most people because they just handle it better. Why? Who knows? I don't know. Discipline, however you want to frame it, whatever you want to call it, they handle it better. I have many clients like this, and those that don't handle it as well, we're not being critical of. I'm simply telling you how it is. Some people handle a cutting diet really, really well, and some don't. And those that do, generally, they can run a little bit lower calories than the rest of the universe and get it over a little bit more rapidly. So they don't need a fad, is the point. They don't need a more rapid fat loss by trying to eat a steak and a candy bar, right? Whatever we got going on. So that crowd is out of it because they're already doing really well with fat loss. Then we have the other crowd. It's basically 50-50 which camp you're in, that struggle with adherence. Do okay during the week. The weekend they blow it. Do okay during the week. Rely too much on alcohol. Can't break the habits, can't break binge eating, can't break away from chips, can't break away from ice cream, whatever the case is. You have two camps, and 99% of people, from what I have seen in my years of coaching, fall into one or two of these camps. Either they really are able to nail a cutting diet, and if they are, they can generally go a little bit lower, don't need any fads, they don't need extra sugar to expedite their cutting diet, they're doing fine. And then the other 50% that struggle with adherence. And usually the adherence crew has some form of reliance or borderline addictive behavior or borderline, and this is not a criticism, this is serious business, a very serious business. Those with adherence issues tend to struggle because either they have binge eating tendencies or a lot of stress in their life, or they're super reliant on fast food because they don't have a lot of time, or they just don't realize it, but they like in the moment this kind of excitement, this endorphin rush. What do I want to eat now? Right? It's more exciting, it's more thrilling than actually planning. So I'm not making fun of it. It's just the way it is, right? It's just the way it is. So the adherence crew that doesn't have a problem adhering doesn't need a sugar diet. And the crowd that is struggling with adherence isn't going to benefit from a sugar diet. So what are we left with? You're left with somebody that can really crush a fat loss diet. Maybe they want to eat steak and lollipops. Maybe they want to eat candy bars and cotton candy and cod. It sounds ridiculous because it is ridiculous. It is. I don't know what else to say. You tell me. You share your opinion. My question, how much volume do the glutes need if you want? This is a tough question because I am very quad dominant on my squats, so I don't get a lot of direct glute work. I assumed for many, many years, back in the day, it was always like squats will make you blocky. Squats will make you blocky. I mean, back in my era, in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, there was a lot of fear of big blocky butts for men. There was a lot of fear of big blocky bodybuilder butts. Not to sound silly, but that's the way it was. There was a lot of fear. Squats will make you blocky. Squats will give you big bodybuilder booty blocky butts, right? Say that 10 times real fast. Big bodybuilder booty blocky butts. That's that's the fear, So I remember it, I just remember how ingrained the fear was. The squats will give you a big booty, blocky butt. That was the fear. So my glutes never really grew a lot from squats. And I probably could use a little bit more glute development. But I don't want a big booty, blocky bodybuilder butt. Maybe that's a t-shirt idea. Big booty, blocky bodybuilder butt. Are we missing anything? Any B words? Maybe I would have done a few more reverse lunges with the front foot elevated or glute. I don't know. I couldn't see myself doing glute kickbacks. I just, nothing that really, really appeals to me. So, a little bit's probably a good thing, but it's hard to say. Some people are going to, if you're getting glute soreness right now out of your hypertrophy leg work or hamstring work, it's probably an indicator that you're getting some degree of stress and you don't need anything extra. But, how much volume, how much time do you have in the week, right? That is always the golden question. We all have a finite amount of time each week. And we have to put that time first off towards back and biceps and quads and back, biceps, quads, and chest. And then we fill in the gaps with our arms and our traps, and maybe you're working calves, maybe you're working forearms. It all comes down to priorities and what you have time for. But I would always, ask. I would always ask the question, how crazy am I about this? How much time do I have to dedicate? Jay, Ant, De Jesus Scout. I love being around big naturals. Plus, please don't block me. I don't know why I would block you. Jimmy, the literature talks about, maybe that was a double entendre. I don't know. Literature talks about how strength impacts running performance, but truly, how much does strong glutes hammies really impact speed and performance? I guess it all depends on what we're doing. Like, let's look at the sprinters. Okay, the sprinters have big legs, powerful thighs, and hips and glutes. Does sprinting create that? Or do people with that form of development or natural aptitude become good sprinters? I think I know the answer. I'll let you figure it out. I think it's people with that kind of explosive power generation that have the natural ability to develop big quads and big hams and big glutes and big hips that become the best sprinters or top level sprinters. At least, there's a degree of variance in there, right? But that's the way it is. The thing that's going to impact speed, I have spent years in the endurance running industry world. Two of my coaches were some of the best endurance runners in the world, literally. Gary Robbins nearly finished the Barkley many times. I mean, he's in the conversation, top 20 maybe, whatever. I've been at the runs. The fast runners aren't big runners. They aren't strong runners. Most of them don't even lift. So for the average guy, there's levels. You want to be a sprinter. You want to be an average 5K runner, 10K runner. You want to be an endurance runner. Endurance runners, the fastest, maybe they do a little bit of something at the YMCA, but they don't, most of them don't look like it. I don't know. They don't look like it. The average 5-10K guys, how fast are we trying to get? The biggest thing that improves running performance is going to be consistency and approaching your running, from a sane standpoint, not trying to set PRs every time. I guess, what is the goal? If you're going to be a top level sprinter, that's a very refined and unique and specialized goal. And strength is probably going to be very important in maximizing your ability to generate explosive power. If you're in a sport that requires explosive power, then yes, I would want the anaerobic addition of strength training. If you're in long endurance or, long running or endurance running, if you're just a 5 or 10K schmo like most of us who just want to do a little bit of something for health, you want to be doing strength training. Everybody wants to be doing strength training for health. So is what it is, right? Do you know why metformin helps a person lose weight? Outside of I don't know anything about it. I wish I could give you an answer, but that is way out of my league. I'm just a meathead lifter. I know you've explained this before, but would you mind explaining how to approach straight sets with the same weight? Okay, so the rep range you're using for straight sets does not matter. That's highly personal for you based on that specific exercise. So maybe you like 8s on 1, 10s on 1, 12s on 1, whatever the rep range you like, doesn't matter. You're going to use the same weight for each set of an exercise. When you're doing straight sets, you can either maximize just the last set, so you push it for as many reps as you can. So let's say you're doing curly whirlies, dumbbell curly whirlies, and you're doing straight sets with 30s. You do 10 reps, and then max reps. If you go 2 or more over, then you add weight. So you move up to the 35s. If the weight jump is too much, then you could just add 35 on the first set till you get to 10. And then on the second set, when that felt reasonable, you could add 35. And when that gets to 10, you could move the third set up and then work towards 12. So it's kind of a little bit of step progression you could work in for those isolation lifts. You could try to work the last 2 sets for max safe reps. And if you get both to 12, then you could move it up in weight. When you get into the business of moving all sets to max safe reps, then it's not straight sets, so I hope that helps some. Why do my triceps always get sore, but my biceps never get sore? The triceps are a big, beefy muscle group, and they have a greater natural tendency to get sore from work. Why? Who knows? One thing I've explained over the years is this, and this is not something a lot of other influencers or fitness celeries or YouTube celeries discuss, but it's a very important point, and I want you to hear this. Every muscle group, bicepticons, tricepticons, trapezoids, chesticles, whatever you're doing, has a different fascia and connective tissue profile. That is the tissue in and around a muscle that covers a muscle, that intertwines through the muscle, the tendons, the connective tissue, the fascia. Each profile is different, okay? The fascia profile for your chesticles is different than the fascia profile for your delts, your tricepticons, your bicepticons, your trapezoids, your deltozoids, your quadriceps, etc. So here's why this is important. There are approximately 9 times more sensory neurons in fascia than there are in muscle tissue. So this means there's a strong possibility or a very strong likelihood that a majority of the soreness you are feeling is from the fascia and connective tissue in and around a muscle and not the muscle itself. Because each muscle group has a different fascia and connective tissue profile, it makes sense logically that some of these areas would have a greater likelihood of getting sore than others. It's like a unique fingerprint for each of these muscle groups, each of these areas. Does that make sense? So the bodybuilding world gets caught up in soreness. If I don't get soreness, I'm not training hard enough. It's almost impossible for me to get my delts sore. My biceps, super rare. My back, very rarely, unless I do a lot of volume on the deadlifts. So don't worry about soreness, but that's basically the long and short of it. You know, are we up to speed scientifically in the community about this? No, there needs to be more research. Maybe after I'm dead, you can say, hey, the big hairy ugly dude talked about this like 70 billion times, but nobody else in the industry is talking about it, even though we're science-based, right? This is just something I learned from my years of being an editor, you know, and let's pull it up. You don't believe me? Let's look at it. Let's see, am I an idiot or am I not an idiot? Let's check with ChatGPT. And let's look at this. Maybe this will help. Let's just ask for the information. Okay. Fascia in and around a muscle has more sensory neurons. Scientifically, would it make sense that a high percentage of DOMs is actually fascia soreness? I'm just asking. Yes, it's scientifically plausible and increasingly supported that a significant portion of DOMs, delayed onset muscle soreness, may originate from fascia, not just muscle fibers. Can you smell what the science is cooking? Science-based. They're all science-based. Fascia is highly innervated. That means a lot of nerves, a lot more sensory neurons. Research shows fascia, especially deep fascia, surrounding muscles. You have something holding the muscles together, contains more sensory nerve endings than muscle tissue. These include nociceptors, pain sensors, proprioceptors, movement position sensors, and mechanical receptors, whatever. I'm not an exercise scientist. I just play one on TV. Muscle fibers are relatively less innervated. More sensory feedback comes from connective tissue structures. Eccentric exercise, which causes the most DOMs, also produces high mechanical stress on the fascia. Hello? Play that back 10 times. Eccentric exercise. There was an obsession with slow up eccentrics because it really creates soreness. You know what? Science, guys, which causes the most DOMs, it does, also produces high mechanical stress on the fascia. You're likely experiencing fascia soreness, not muscle soreness. So those of you doing these prolonged 10-second eccentrics, oh, I'm so sore. It's your fascia. It's not even your muscles, really. I'm sure there's extra tension on the muscles, obviously, but you know, we need to be reasonable about this. So does DOMs equal fascia soreness? Not entirely, but it's very likely that fascia plays a major role in the sensory experience of DOMs. Okay. I mean, some of this is still up for our scientific exploration, but from a physiological analysis, there are more sensory neurons. I believe it's 8 or 9 times more in fascia and connective tissue than the muscle itself. So chasing soreness, you're really just chasing fascia soreness. rather than muscle soreness, even though it feels like muscle soreness. It's the fascia in and around that muscle tissue. Remember, just remember, I'm not trying to place myself on some high mountain, but I've been talking about this forever, and I feel like I'm the only one talking about it. But you're not science-based, big, hairy, ugly dude. Okay. Whatever. Big Jimmy Cooksworth. You're talking about apparel. I'll just say the massive iron flat bills are top notch. That's right. Jimmy has one. Thanks for that. I can lift 300 pounds. Could take 5 years. Could take 5 weeks. There's no way to say for certain. There's really not. Like, I got to 315 on bench. It took me like a long time to get to 385, a long time. Some people can get there quickly. Some people can take 2 or 3 years. And I wish I could be, provide better guidelines than that, but it's random. And I don't mean to be super silly and animated with this science-based stuff. And it's some of it's just humor. I appreciate you guys cutting me some slack, but we live in this world that is so overly overbaked with science-based influencers. And there are certain things that I find very curious that are never talked about. A lot of times the science-based stuff is so detached from what is actually happening in the gym that it's inherently unscientific. Someone said to me the other day, yesterday or whatever, in a comment, they were saying, I think they left a YouTube comment that said, I do something and I've done something over a long period of time that has been a part of my program, and I've built a lot of muscle mass that the science-based community says isn't optimal. Okay, so if something can contribute and does contribute to muscle building, okay, if a lot of people are doing it and it is part of the history in the last 70 decades of muscle building, if somebody is doing the thing and they're still able to build, and they're able to build quality muscle mass, and science dismisses it, it's not scientific. It is science's job to figure out why you can do 10 different things, 20 different things, basically structure a program in a million different ways and still build muscle. It's science's job to figure that out, right? Science has to take the perspective that this is not a 4-week program. This is a 10-year journey. And micro variances in hypertrophy mean very little. What this means is there is a lot of freedom in how you can train as long as the common pillars of success are in place. This is something I talked about in my book way back when, Massive Iron, and I talk about now, and I've talked about forever. As long as you have the common pillars of success in place, you are going to build muscle. The tools you use do not matter as much as having the pillars of success in place, the common pillars of success in place, and executing them over a long period of time. Okay? I feel my approach is far more scientific than 95% of the science-based guys. I'm not going to get on here and frame my channel as some science-based channel. And maybe I'm a complete idiot. You can decide. But I have spent my life studying lifting. It is my passion. It is what I love to help other people do. I'm not a fear culture guy. I'm not some narrow path guy, because it's not true. People will get upset with me when I tell them you don't have to do full body, you don't have to do frequency, like I have some form of dogma. No, I'm just sharing with you the truth. It doesn't matter how you train because it's a long process. And if you apply the common pillars of success over the long run, it doesn't matter how you train. The split doesn't matter. And science history backs us up. There's a whole period, 20 years, where all lifters did, naturals, was body part splits. Many of you are too young to remember this, but there's been all spectrums, all types of training over the last 70 years, and they've all ended up in the same place, not one more efficiently or faster than another. That is the truth. If anyone is in denial about that truth, they do not truly understand lifting and the history of lifting. They do not truly understand hypertrophy. It does not matter what your split is. It does not matter what your exercise selection is. As long as you have a quality group of exercises that are attacking that muscle group, that have a quality progression opportunity, you can get stronger at those over time. You're training hard, you're nailing your nutrition, you are consistent, you are staying healthy and staying in the gym, and you are focused on controlling the weight, not just throwing things around, you are going to get big regardless of your split, your exercise selection, your progression approach, etc., 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 etc. That is the scientific basis. This realm creates freedom, not fear. The belief that somehow you can optimize something, it isn't going to get you any bigger over a 10-year period of time. I'm going to do lengthened partials and stretchies and angles and feely wheelies. I'm not making fun of this stuff. It's just become so clownish, so much almost like a caricature. Like you have to do this stuff. You don't have to do any of that stuff. That's the big picture. I'm not making fun of this stuff. You don't have to do any of it. That's what I'm trying to teach. These optimization clowns come along and make it seem like you have to do something, or else your gains are going to be super slow. This is the biggest lie in the modern lifting landscape. It is a huge lie. It's not even remotely true. Lifting has a broad path as long as you have the common pillars of success in place. You have a lot of freedom in lifting. It's not tethered to barbells or dumbbells or specific types of exercises or specific types of rep ranges or any of that stuff. RIR, RPE, what percentage of this is close to failure. All of that stuff doesn't matter. It's the bigger picture. Having a good selection of exercises, being reasonably consistent, having a good reasonable amount of weekly volume per body part, executing progressive overload or getting a lot stronger than you are over time, training hard, nailing your nutrition, being patient, staying healthy and staying, not constantly trying to slow down or wait for weight to feel lighter. I mean, it really doesn't get any more simple than this. If you look at the program of every successful natural and unnatural lifter that's ever climbed the mountain, every program looks different. Call me a liar. Am I lying? All righty. Where are we? I got completely fired up. What's your opinion on training legs with cables, squatting, pull-throughs? Good morning. As long as you have a good exercise selection, that's fine. What are your goals? What are your goals? Do you have a good selection of exercises that align with your goals? I eat nothing but creamsicles and root beer. My gains have never been better. Your diabetes gains. How do I learn to do a backflip? I want to remind you that this is tied to, hold on. I want you to look at the username. Okay. Wait. Do you smoke weed? Do you smoke weed? Do you smoke weed? Do you smoke weed? How do you backflip? I neither smoke weed nor do I backflip. Sorry. Happy Friday. I appreciate you being on, but I have no idea. I'm not a backflip coach. I'm not being sarcastic. I just don't know I don't know if you're trolling me. Can I be a ninja? I don't know. Yeah, you can be anything you want. It's 2025. My pronouns are ninja. My pronouns are backflip. Happy Friday, Team Massive. Just humor, guys. I made the decision to transition from upper lower to upper posterior. So far, upper body days are now less intense than before. I still need to get used to posterior days. I don't understand how that could be. I mean, if you were doing back and chest and shoulders and arms on one day, and then you're only doing chest and shoulders and arms, there would be less volume intensity. I understand. The posterior days are definitely not easy. You use whatever split works for you. So I can kind of understand what you're saying. And I will check. I checked this morning. I will check again. Is chicken breast better than steak to maintain protein intake? No, nothing is better than nothing. You want a good selection of animal-based foods. It's not a either-or equation. It is a, get in a reasonable variety: chicken, steak, eggs, fish, whatever. That's best. Best is always a reasonable variety. Can you share a video of your BTN setup? I believe I have a BTN exercise in the archives. And hold on one second. Just let me pull up behind the scenes. Let's see, YouTube Studio. Let me see if I can find my BTN. Oh, yeah, here I am with BTN. I'm doing, I have to make sure it's muted. This is 2:30. Hold on. Present, share screen. I used to do a lot of BTN work back in the day. And at one point, I just transitioned to a seated front press. I hit a 315-pound BTN, and then I wanted to hit a 315-pound seated front press. So I kind of moved away from the BTN, not for any reason other than I just had new goals. So this is rest pause. I want to stress this. What I would do I would do 3 reps, and then I would rest briefly, then do 3 reps, rest briefly, 3. So this is 15 total reps with 2:30 rest pause style. And William Baker wants to look at form. Okay. So when the bar is about at lower ear level, you want the wrists a little bit inside of the elbows. You can see here, my wrists are not directly over my elbows. They're just a little bit inside, but the bar is not at lower ear. The lower you go, the more your wrists are going to get over your elbows. So right about here, I would say the bar, I don't mean to be confusing. I'm just kind of sorting through this. The bar is probably at my upper ear. My wrist is a little bit inside of my elbows. When the bar is at the lowest point of the ear, your wrist should be over your elbows because you're driving your elbows down and they're going to rotate in a little bit. So this is how I would get set up. I would unrack like this from the front part, and then I would seat back. See? Not always easy to do. There's other ways to do it, but this is how I would do it. Press up. I go to the back of my fat watermelon head. You can see the shoulder joint and the elbow joint. You just want to make sure the elbow is getting well below the shoulder. Honestly, I would typically aim for lower ear, but the older I got, the less mobility I had. And here I was a big fatty, so it was harder to get it lower. So I would do 3 sets. It's about 240. It was about 24 seconds when I set that down. Let's see how long it is before I attack it again. We're about 24 seconds in. Here it's about 14 seconds later, and I'm doing another 3. Let's just look at the wrists over the elbows at the bottom. You can see the wrists either right on top of the elbows or slightly inside. The deeper you go, the more the elbows are going to kind of move in and the wrists are going to move out. So if I came all the way down, my wrists would be outside of the elbows. I don't specifically like this for the BTN, but there are a lot of guys with greater mobility that can take it all the way down to their shoulders. I could not. I had a bunch of packs of hot dogs on the back of my neck. Just with my arm size and my overall body fat levels, it was just really hard. I've never actually tried to get it to my neck. I don't care to train the BTN like that. If you do that, that's perfectly fine. I don't care. I have clients that do that. The key concern is always taking care of the shoulders. So nice and controlled during the descent until you feel that natural spot. You want to make sure you're controlling it down. I don't want you to rush it down. We don't want to place, bad or negative stress on the shoulders. So control it down. Control it down. Control it down. Let's see here. A little bit sticky there. All right. Let's get on with getting on. Thank you for the explanation. You're welcome, and thank you for tuning in. Is high rep, low weight on compound lifts like squats done? It depends on the experience and your form. I mean, I would not do that exclusively. Unless you were, just doing minimal sets. You could. Sorry, I read that backwards for a second. I read that as low weight, low. I read that as high weight, low reps. That's my mistake because I often get asked about low rep sets. So, yeah, I mean, if you're doing limited number of squat sets per week, you can just do 1 or 2 of those if you want. I mean, we don't have to overbake the squats as long as your weekly leg volume is on track. My kid forced me to watch K-pop Demon Hunters. Now it's done. I can find. I don't even know what that is, but I'm glad you can train your back. Is bro science the OG science-based lifting ideology? The thing I don't know. I'm just here to help everybody get results. And I want you guys to always have the bigger picture. The biggest thing is I want you guys to understand there's freedom in what we do. There's freedom in what we do, and it's not a narrow path as long as it's a reasonable path. My baby mom promised no more Joey's. He keeps popping up on my Facebook. I won't even lie. Thoughts on recomping. I'm 6'1", 191, and I'm creeping at 20% body fat. I was cutting before and got down to 165, but I feel like if I cut back down, I'm going to lose. You don't lose muscle. You don't lose muscle on a cut. That's not the way it works. You'll get a little bit glycogen depleted. It's almost impossible to lose muscle mass in the short run if you are training hard and not doing anything unreasonable. That's not true. Don't recomp. It's a path to nowhere really, really quickly. In doing shrugs, is there a difference between holding in front and sideways? Not really. Be doing like a hex bar shrug with a neutral grip or a regular shrug. I mean, you can do either one. It's all going to come down to heavy weight and stress, and that's going to really be the golden driver. I want to do Olympic lifts just because I think they're cool. You think they can help build mass? They're not conventional hypertrophy work. This can tick off some people, but if you want muscle, you'd still need a base of convention, and then I would add in some Olympic lifts. AJ, do you do call-ins? No. I mean, I'm not being dismissive. No, I don't. I can't just let somebody randomly call in and share their opinion, or because it's video, start stripping, start cussing. No, I don't do it. The only way I'd do that is if I knew the person very, very well. I want to be a ninja. Can I train at your dojo? You can do whatever you want because it's 2025. You can create your own martial arts. Is there a list of lifts besides the typical compound lifts that using a weightlifting belt is good for? A belt is highly personal. Anything that tightness really feels important for you is you could consider using a belt on, so anything where bracing is really important, you could try using a belt. Do you have to use a belt? No. Should you change the way you train after 30? No. Everything is always evolving training based on what's happening in the gym, not arbitrary random changes. I've trained hard from 40 to 50, almost 58 now. I haven't changed any. Everything is slow evolution. It's always slow evolution. We have a really good exercise selection. Good. With the latest Jeff Nipper drama, I didn't even watch it. Can somebody give me the cliff notes? I saw the whole fake natty video. I didn't actually watch it, so I don't know. I haven't had time. I've been working so hard over the last 2 weeks. I really have no idea what's going on. So if anybody can give me the cliff notes. Not paying to talk. Okay, thank you for the update. We do CrossFit every day. Okay, great. I don't do collabs. No, I don't. Thank you. Do you think any of the more odd lifts you see athletes in various sports do? Do you think any of the more odd lifts you see athletes in various sports do, or do the bizarre old-time strongman lifts? A lot of the old-time strongman lifts were just guys playing around, having fun. I mean, anything can contribute to hypertrophy. You have to ask yourself the risk reward, and if something is worth it. Doing some of these, I've done a few wacky lifts over the years. They're not meat and potatoes hypertrophy lifts. That doesn't mean anything that challenges the body can't have value. It certainly can, but it's just not my specialty. I'm more conventional hypertrophy. Let's see. All right, guys, we're almost done. Last call for questions. If not, I'm going to hop off. Recognize CrossFit with me. No. I'm not a CrossFit coach. You do you. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you run around with your balls hanging out, doing jumping jacks and bonking yourself in the eye with your testicles, or crapping yourself during bench press. I'm just being silly. I don't care what you do. I'm not a CrossFit guy, so I don't care what you do. Follow-up question about recomp. So when I start the cut, I should technically only need to do cut to. I mean, you want to stay in a good lane that's comfortable. The reason why I recommend a 10-pound cut is because it's very manageable. You don't feel like you have to cut a long, long time. If you want to bulk for a longer period of time and you feel comfortable with a 15 or 20-pound cut, you certainly could do that. All right. Have a great weekend. Thank you, guys. I'm about to hop off. I'll wait for the last call for questions. Just a reminder, if you need a custom workout, you can head over to here, superlivingtoday.com, and check out the custom tab. If you want coaching, I would love to help. Check out the coaching tab. And if you are like AJ James, who's not paying to talk, then just keep doing your own thing. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you being here. I appreciate you guys not being like AJ James and being a smart asshole. And we are out of here.
It's not almost over. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.
See ya.